What is going on? I think we are actually finally live. I've had so many issues with actually going live on my personal channel, which is kind of funny because one of the biggest things, finally, there we go, Forgotten Art, there we go. You guys just give me a like, a heads up, anything. All right, we got one person watching. Okay, fantastic. We're gonna get right into this and I'm gonna turn down my volume. All right. I know, guys, it's been 2 weeks since I've been live, probably 3 weeks at this point. For whatever reason, it's been working on my BPI YouTube channel. It's been working on my personal Facebook channel, and it's been working on my personal, or actually the BPI Facebook page. I have no idea why it's not working. I was like, there's no strikes against me or anything. So let's get right into it. So this is actually something I have a whole slew of videos built up, and obviously not going live in a while. I just wanted to make sure that there's a ton of things, a ton of value that I want to provide over the coming days. That it's finally working. I'm literally looking at it right now. All right, entertaining yourself. Where did this come from? This is something I've been thinking about for a while because, being in sales and first of all, you're in sales, okay? Let's just establish that. That's the baseline, is that you're in sales. You're selling your idea, you're selling yourself, whether it's on an interview or a date, you're selling, we should go here to your friends. Anytime that you need to influence or manage or convince someone to do something, you're doing sales, okay? There's this weird aura around sales that people just don't believe you are in sales. If you don't think you're in sales, then you're in engineering and you're being told what to do, and you're never going to live a happy life because you're essentially you're never projecting exactly what you want. You're never actually influencing what you want. You're never, this weekend I was with my mom, and she's just one of those people that she wants other people to be happy over her happiness, which is fine. It's not like she's doing anything illegal or immoral, but the thing is, there's times where it's like, what do you want to do? We know what you want to do based on body language and everything else. She'll give two options, and we already know which option she wants to do, but she always says, well, there's this other option we could do. There's this other place we could eat at, or there's this other type of food that we could have. And I'm like, Mom, what do you want to do? Okay? So if you have no idea the basics of selling, which is obviously the basics of selling comes down to emotion, okay? The emotional state of the other person and the emotional state of yourself, okay? More importantly, yourself, because if you can control your emotional state, you can almost directly influence their emotional state. They have to be completely unplugged and or at a level of self-awareness that they know they're getting influenced, okay? If I run across a bad salesperson, Charles, how are you doing? That's great. Okay, I'm calling from Yelp and I want you to sponsor this coming month your company on our website, and we bubble. They're not trained well, okay, at Yelp. Most people are not trained well in sales at all over, okay? So when I actually say sales, you have to learn this art. It is an art. It isn't anything, it's not a science, it's an art, because every person is completely different. If it was a science, that means you do this, you do this, you do this, and then you get a sale. Yes, there's generalities. You have to build rapport, then you have to ask questions, you have to find a need, and then you sell it, okay? So this all is a long-winded way of saying that if you cannot entertain yourself when you're telling a story, if you cannot influence yourself when you're selling something, if you cannot actually convince yourself of something that you believe in, that someone else should believe in, which is your idea, yourself on an interview, yourself on a date, or just telling a general story. This all came up this morning. So I'm at gym class, and this girl who's been in the class for probably 6-7 months, we've never talked, she's attractive, and I said, and it was interesting because I talked to her one time, and we were leaving the gym, and I don't think she recognized me or whatever, because there's about 40-50 people, probably about 40 people in the class, and I'm walking out, she's walking out, great class, blah, 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 oh, okay, great, you were in it, da-da-da, and that was it, and we parted ways. Today, it was interesting because I was in the front row right next to the teacher and I was dominating. And I felt good. And the thing is, when you're in the front row and you're right next to the teacher, you can't look at other people because you have to be focused on yourself, okay? That's everything. You have to motivate yourself, because if I start comparing myself with the person behind me who's not going as fast, that's gonna directly influence me. See where this is going, okay? So they're influencing me, okay? I'm not influencing them. So I have to influence myself, okay, when I'm actually working out, whatever. So the class ends, we're stretching and everything else. Usually when they stretch, she leaves. She just goes. And she wants to be the first one in the showers because there's a long line in the ladies' room, whatever. But it was weird because she took a while, she stretched, she put her weights back, and I was like, okay, I think and it was me and maybe a couple other guys that were left, and I was like, she wants to talk. That's the micro nuance of convincing yourself, you know what, she wants to talk, because usually she sprints out of here. So whatever. So I start telling her a story. So, oh, tough class, whatever, we start talking. And I start telling her a story. And this is really where it came in. So we just did a 45-minute class. I'm drenched in sweat. You know, she sweat just as much. And this is really where it came down to. And I started thinking about it halfway through the story, which wasn't a long story. It's about maybe a minute and a half. Okay, maybe just over a minute, probably about a minute story, okay? I took a 3-minute funny story down to a minute, and halfway through, you can always tell if they're into it or not into it, and this is funny because I did an Instagram story about this yesterday where I said, when someone's not into your story, what do? Do you walk away or do you torture them more? And ironically enough, the guy that I was talking to yesterday about a story, he just walked away. He's like, oh, okay, great, and then just walked away. And I was like, I wasn't really done with the story. That must have been a really bad story. And then that's really when it started conjuring what makes a good storyteller, okay? What really makes someone be entertained, influenced, convinced, is that you have to be convinced. And here's the case in point. So I started telling the story. I'm about halfway through. And I noticed that you could tell from the body language and the nuances and everything else, maybe she's itching to go up and get ready for work, or the story wasn't really hitting home. So in sales, yes, you have to do that calibration live while you're telling a story or while you're selling something or anything else. Told her the story, is pretty funny. You know, she had a chuckle and everything else. She starts going up to the ladies' room, and the men's room is on the first floor, the ground floor. So halfway through, blah, 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 oh, you went away, Mika knows, holy cow, that's great, what's your name? Alice, Charles, blah, blah, blah. And then she walks up and we parted ways, and it was good. And that's really when I started thinking about it, is that how convinced was I of that story? So this is where people get it wrong, including myself until this morning, is that, and I'll tell you some practical ways, is that I was convinced of the story, but what I was trying to do was convince her of the story, okay? So here's a case in point. You go to a concert, that person that's playing a concert, say it's an 80s band or a 90s band, they've been playing that for decades. How are they convinced? Like David Grohl, okay? David Grohl, if you don't know, Foo Fighters, he came from Nirvana. So essentially, he plays the same songs from Foo Fighters, okay? How is he convinced to love a song that he has played probably hundreds or thousands of times, and he convinces that concert or that audience, and he just still loves it? It's because he's convinced himself. Billy Joel has sold out every single month at MSG, and he said he'll stop playing there, or probably stop playing in general, if he can't sell out MSG. My parents are going to see him in September, but that's the thing, is that he plays the same songs. Granted, I don't know for a fact, maybe it's 50% new songs, 50% old songs, but they've convinced themselves that this is an incredible song. They love the art of playing music. A comedian that has just told the same joke for months and months. They've talked about it, authors who have just literally written draft after draft after draft of a book. And then once it comes out, they're done. Or actors and actresses who produce a video, or a movie, I should say, and they're done. They've spent months on the same line or the same scene or the same sequence, and they've rehearsed it. Then they went in, they filmed it, and they filmed it, and they filmed it, and they're just sick and tired. They're like, I need to move on. And it's the same thing with us. Our story, our influencing, our convincing is that we have to be convinced, and if we are convinced, then most likely they will be convinced. This is such an important topic because usually what we're trying to do is convince them. I'm the best, I'm the greatest, my company, myself, my sales, whatever the case is. But in fact, it really comes back from you. You have to be convinced that they will be convinced. And then over time, you start actually getting better. You know, if I'm pitching a listing today, You know, I have to be convinced not only of my services, number one. Number two is that once I'm convinced of my services, then I have to actually get better at the art of presenting to the owners. Okay, I'm most likely going to get the listing because I'm so convinced that I'm going to be able to handle the objections. I'm going to be able to handle the building rapport. I'm going to be able to handle, have you sold anything in this building? Have you sold anything in this area? What do you think the price is? What do you think the marketplace is? Yes, that comes from confidence, but the fact is you have to be confident in not only yourself, but the story you're telling. I know that's a long-winded way. I'm telling you right now, this is going to hit you because you're going to be telling a story. Someone's not going to like it. The art of storytelling is literally the biggest way to build rapport. The art of storytelling is literally the biggest way to convince or to influence. Why do we like a company or a brand or a person? It's because of the story that they've told us about themselves, okay? This isn't, listen, I don't know if this is hitting home or not. I'm going to look down at the comments in a second, but for me, today was this girl, it was so influential on me because, and I'll just leave you with this, is that I was so convinced through storytelling that I have to convince them, the audience, that it's funny or it's a good story or here's my brand or my product or my why or my what or my values or my whatever about anything, myself, my company, my services, if I'm on a date, whatever the case is. In fact, I have to be convinced myself. So that's a long-winded way. You have to entertain yourself and then they will be entertained. You have to think it's funny before they think it's funny. The best comedians, they think it's funny. You can see it. What's his name? Brian Regan. Brian Regan starts laughing. Seinfeld starts laughing. Bill Burr sometimes starts laughing. Louis C.K., obviously, whatever you want to say about him, he starts laughing sometimes, okay? Because he thinks it's funny. If he thinks it's funny, it's more likely to come across to the audience that they think it's funny. It's the same thing with acting. If they are convinced in their role, in their part, they're going to be able to convince someone else. So today and forever, convince yourself about what you're saying. Be confident in what you're saying. And I'm just going to leave you with this. And I said this. I said, what if she wasn't convinced about me? I say I like her, or I want the job, or I want the apartment, but they're not convinced on me. As long as I'm convinced I did the best, that's fine, because I can't control them. I think that's really the basis of entertaining yourself, of influencing yourself, of convincing yourself. So have an amazing day. We got 5 people watching. I love it. I'm back. Nice background. Thank you very much. You once said that people are divided into two, the ones that learn and the ones that entertain. But what you say now converts that, maybe contradicts is what you're saying. Charles, you read the Master Key System. Yes, I have. I haven't read it. I actually got the audio. What do you think of it? I think it was good. I think, once you hit a point in personal development, 10 years for me, 10, 11 years, you just start seeing the same thing. So it's a good convincing. It's a good, reminder. Okay, so the people divide into the ones that learn and the ones that entertain. So the ones that entertain, there's 2 types of people. There's actually 2 types of people, consumers and entertainers. Consumers are 85% of the market and it's growing. Consumers, it could be consumers and creators, or anyone that does something original. That's music, that's writing, that's me. And then you have people that consume. So people that consume without creating anything is just the majority of the people in the world. The majority of the people just consume shit all the time. They consume food, they consume money, and then once they consume money, they take it and then they spend it on vacations. The people that actually produce are the people that have the vacations, the people that own the airplanes or the taxi service. The Uber driver is yes, he's the one that's actually a producer. He's producing. That's the best way. Someone actually mentioned this. It was in a political argument over the weekend. They said there's producers and there's consumers. And you can't have too many consumers because otherwise the producers say this is unfair. Usually you want to have more producers, but it never works out that way. Okay, so entertaining, it really comes down to people like The Rock, music. I don't really entertain. You're learning right now, okay? So you have learners learners, creators, producers, everyone over here. And then you have just consumers on this side, okay? That's the best way to do it. Name one big thing you changed your view of philosophy in the last 6 months. We don't convince the world, we have to convince. That's actually a really good quote. That's exactly it. We don't convince the world, we only have to convince ourselves. I would add that. One big philosophy, I would say how short life is and how much time I'm wasting. Why? I have a client right now and she's selling her nest egg. And last time that we talked, nest egg is your biggest asset and then you go and retire. You know, I actually just sold 2 of those. One of them, they went to retire, they're a little bit younger. This one is, she's like in her 90s, okay? And she's going to a nursing home, okay? And that's where she's gonna live the rest of her days. And being in front of someone like that, it is fascinating to really put things into perspective, to really say, where am I spending my time? My dad, you know, he's getting up there in age. You know, this weekend I saw him and I saw him really start to slow down. And I was like, how many times do I really have with this guy left? So the biggest philosophy for me is that we don't have much time, and it's something I can't convince you. It's like an alcoholic. It's like, dude, you're an alcoholic, or you're a druggie, or you're spending too much money. Until something happens, you go into bankruptcy, or you get too much debt, or your liver fails, or you get a heart attack, and then you say, oh shit, maybe I should go to the gym. Oh shit, maybe I should. So with food and sleep and all those like health, that was really good, okay? But the philosophy, like you said, Chris, is massive. Right, you gotta have something after you're done. People don't think that much. Yeah, no, they don't. Most people, and this is the thing, is that I was grabbing breakfast this morning and there was a family, no one was talking, the girl was scrolling through her phone, the parents were right next to her, clearly, probably, most likely, a single child, or unless someone else, you know, graduated, went to college or whatever the case, it doesn't really matter. But I looked at this family and I said, holy shit, this is the generation that's coming up right now. They are addicted to cell phones. So as much as Gary Vaynerchuk says, well, do what the masses do, no, dude. There is massive suicide, there's massive people of unhappiness, there's 2 lives that people are living, the ones that they actually put online and then the ones they're actually living. There's a ton of pretenders, there's a ton of fake people. I've unsubscribed from a ton of YouTube videos. Once someone says something, I'm like, no. You know, like their mindset, you know, I'll be on a date and I'll say, oh, I'm waking up at 5 o'clock tomorrow, or 4 o'clock if I'm going riding. And if the girl says, oh my God, that's crazy, I wake up at 7:30, 8 o'clock, that's just not attractive to me. That's just a lifestyle that I just don't want to get involved in. You know, maybe when I was 25, I'd say, whoa, she's attractive. It does. No, you have to have standards. You have standards already. I have standards on maybe my time right now. You know, Gary's really good at the macro, but when it comes to the micro, there needs to be someone that fills in the gaps. Okay, Grant Cardone fills it in for sales. Many people don't believe that that's good. You know, physiology and philosophy say, you know, Jordan Peterson, or physiology is Tony Robbins, and myself is, you're gonna see me just rising. You know, I had one, I can't believe it happened, but I had one email that came through and they said, you know, maybe you should come and speak and everything else. I'm expecting a lot of those. However, honestly, the business is the most important thing. So anyway, I'm gonna hop out. Dopamine feedback loop, yeah, 100%. You have to understand that's self-awareness. That is self-awareness. Gary talks about self-awareness, but he doesn't understand that when someone scrolls through their phone and they're just consuming ad after ad after ad, movie after movie after movie, you know, I'll just leave you on this even though I said that already. There's a family that stayed with us on Easter this year, okay? It's a married couple, they have 2 kids, and it's just a really weird situation. You see someone, either the lifestyle they're living or the way they're parenting, and say, I would never parent that way, but to each their own, no judgment. But for me, I want to judge to understand, okay, this is what I'm not gonna do, okay? So the daughter spilled something on the tablecloth. Really nice tablecloth. My parents rolled out the best because they don't really entertain as much as they used to. The girl spilled something on there. Then wine was spilled on there, and it was just a total mess. And I was like, cool, whatever. I'm glad you post this on Facebook and everything else. But once you're actually involved in someone's life and you're having a conversation, you're like, there's a little difference between what you're posting and who you are in person. But this is where it came to a head. She posted something. She said, me and my husband, I'm not going to say any names, me and my husband are looking to binge, listen to this, to binge on Netflix content. Do you understand how many videos are on Netflix? So if you've gone through all the videos that you really want to go through, it's kind of one of those things like you're just consuming, like at one time you're going to look back and be like, oh, okay, I had a good life. I don't know. It's like have experiences. You're just consuming and being entertained instead of entertaining. I don't know. Just be more self-aware. Be self-aware, and I'll leave you, actually tomorrow's video we're going to talk about this new philosophy that I have anytime I pick up my phone. Anytime I pick up my phone. So, good viewer from Chris Mancano, Self-Awareness. Yeah. Great channel, great channel. So I'm gonna hop out, like, share, subscribe. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I know we had a lot of subscribers, probably about 50 come on board from the last 3 weeks while I was trying to get this fucking thing working. Anyway, enjoy your day. Gonna go live on BPI YouTube and BPI Facebook right now. So if you want, the links are below. Have an amazing day.